Okay, I want to do a quick review of the Tracomp system real quick. So this is a typical hub that uses Tracomp spokes. This is an R-Sys hub and the non-drive side here, and without bearings, so the bearings are out. So again, Tracomp is short for traction, come on, focus, traction and compression. So what makes these spokes unique is they're very stiff in compression and also in traction. And because of that, when the spoke is installed, and when all the spokes are installed, there needs to be this ring. And one of its functions is that it prevents the spoke from, number one, turning, and number two, from protruding into the hub whenever the spoke is at 6 o'clock or road contact point, or whatever you want to call it, where the weight of the bike and the rider is at its maximum. And since it doesn't flex in compression, without the ring here, it will protrude into the hub shell and potentially hit the axle, and that wouldn't be good. And I can only speculate that when these rings fail and they crack, it's because of too much force. Okay, I want to show you the Tracomp ring we're talking about here. Specifically, there's a ridge on the inside here up along the top. Can I see it right up there? That's where the blade of the screwdriver goes whenever you're using the tool to pry it out of the hub. There's that lip there. There's a groove in there, that's the word I want. And that's where the slotted screwdriver goes. One last thing I wanted to add is why it's important to actually remove this ring every time you true the wheel. This ring prevents the spoke from turning, since each of the ends of the spoke is bonded to the shaft. The nipple doesn't spin independently. So if this ring is in there and it prevents the spoke from turning, you're going to twist the spoke and crack it. Okay, I start by placing the wheel on a table or a bench with the drive side facing up. I insert a 5mm hex wrench into the axle and hold the axle nut with a 17mm wrench. And as you can see, I am turning the axle with the 5mm hex clockwise. So now I remove the axle nut the remainder of the way, and as you can see, I pull the free hub body off a little bit just to make sure it's not stuck. I push it back in, and I pull out the axle from the non-drive side. Just a warning, be careful so that the free hub body does not fall off. Next, you're going to use the Tracomp ring tool and that slotted screwdriver to remove the ring and those two red plastic clips. Now I'm going to remove the hub end of the broken spoke. At this point, I need to remove the remainder of the spoke from the rim end. It's pretty self-explanatory here. Now I like to lay the wheel on the drive side, and I take the replacement spoke and I thread it through the hub shell and into the rim. Now I'm going to tighten that non-drive side spoke. Remember, these are reverse threaded, so left-handed threads. And while I'm turning the spoke, I am watching inside the hub shell right there as the spoke is being drawn into the rim and flush to the hub shell. And I want to stop when it's flush to the hub shell. At this point, you want to reinstall the axle from the non-drive side. As you noticed, I did not install the Tracomp ring. Sometimes the spacer shifts in there and doesn't allow the axle to pass through the free hub body. So you need to work it a little bit to make sure the spacer is aligned and the paws are compressed. Now you reinstall the axle nut onto the axle by hand as far as you can go, and then with the 5mm hex and the 17mm wrench, you install it the rest of the way. I do need to warn you that you need to be careful with that nut. It is made out of a soft aluminum and it doesn't take much to damage it, so it doesn't have to be tight at all. Now with the axle reinstalled without the Tracomp ring, you take it to the truing stand and you true the wheel as per usual. When you're done truing the wheel, you go through the process of removing the axle again. Same process as before, using a 5mm hex and a 17mm wrench. Now we're going to reinstall the Tracomp ring with the 2 red plastic clips. I don't know how critical the clips are, but anyway. So you want to position the clips 180 degrees from each other and line them up with the 2 cutouts in the ring. And then you're going to take the opposite side of that Tracomp ring tool that you used to remove it, and you're going to tap the ring into place. You want to make sure that the ring is flush to the bearing on the inside and that there aren't any gaps. Again, hold on to that free hub body so it doesn't fall off. So again, holding onto the free hub body, we're going to reinstall the axle from the non-drive side along with the axle nut. I'm going to thread it on as far as I can by hand, and then I'm going to grab the 5mm hex and the 17mm wrench to finish it. And again, not too tight, be careful, just snug enough. I'm not sure what the torque spec is, but I know for certain, just not too much. At this point, we're going to check for any play in the bearings, and we're going to grab that Mavic hub tool, insert it on the non-drive side, and then adjust any play out of the axle.